Bonjour et bienvenue. Hello and welcome to Straight Through the Channel. So far in the introduction series, we have learned how to talk about our name, occupation and age. And now we are going to talk about our origin. This one is a little trickier as there are many ways you can talk about your origin. For example, I can say I was born in France, I am from France, I am French, and so on. So we will focus on two main ways of expressing origin, using to be, être, and to come from, venir. As we have already studied the verb être in the video about occupation, we won't dwell on that. What you might remember from that video was that the name for your occupation could change slightly depending on whether you considered yourself male or female. Well, this gender concept also applies to origins and nationalities. For example, if I were a man, I would say je suis européen. But if I were a woman, or rather, as I am a woman, I say je suis européenne. And you can notice two things already. First, origins and nationalities are not capitalized in French. And second, if the nationality or origin ends in an E in the masculine form, it will remain the same in the feminine. For example, je suis asiatique can be said by a man or a woman. As for the masculine and feminine endings, you usually have to add an E to the masculine to get the feminine form. But sometimes you'll also have to double up the last consonant. These are the most common endings for nationalities, but I am also including a table of less frequent endings. I know this sounds really bad, but the best way to find out how to say your nationality is to check a dictionary. So now you can answer these questions. De quelle nationalité es-tu? De quelle origine es-tu? You can respond with your nationality, with no capital, and not forgetting to choose the right gender. If you are a multinational, add a comma between each nationality and et before the last one. For example, je suis brésilienne, japonaise et russe. Finally, if you don't fancy responding to that question because really where you're from is known of by business, that's fair enough. And I'll show you a good phrase. Je suis citoyen du monde. Je suis citoyenne du monde. I am a citizen of the world. This is enough to be able to talk about your origin, but next we are going to learn how to say where we come from. First, we need to learn to conjugate the verb to come, venir, in the present tense. Je viens, tu viens, il vient, elle vient, nous venons, vous venez, ils viennent, elles viennent. Then it's almost as easy as in English, we add the French equivalent of from to make the phrase to come from. The only issue is we are studying French, and if French grammar was easy, there wouldn't be so many videos about it. So, we have 4 different articles that translate into from. So, let's try and work out together how this works by having a look at some examples. And you can pause the video if you want to have a better look. We can divide these examples into 4 categories, depending on which article is used. Let's have a look at the first example, and it seems pretty straightforward. The apostrophe is used in front of a vowel. The second category looks easy enough as well. We use des in front of a plural country. This is when in English you tend to use the. The third category might prove a little more difficult. I mean, I seem to have twice as many examples here, so it probably means we've got a couple of rules to figure out. So let's try to separate these examples into 2 categories. 4 of them look like they are islands. And for the other 4, the only thing they seem to have in common is that they end in E. Now, We know that adding an E to an adjective usually makes it feminine. But what about these countries that are already ending in E? Let's have a look at a list of countries ending in E. And look at that. All countries ending in E are feminine, apart from 7 exceptions that are masculine. So, if we go back to our example, we can safely deduce that de is used in front of islands and feminine countries, unless of course they start with a vowel, in which case we will use the apostrophe. De can also be used in front of a city, town or village. The last category is du, du, which is used in front of masculine countries, which include the 7 exceptions of countries ending in E, as well as all of the countries that, well, aren't feminine. So these are the rules we have on the use of the articles des apostrophes, de, du, and des in front of countries. Lastly, I have to mention that, as with any good grammatical rule, we have got some exceptions. De can be used with some countries that don't end in E. De is used with most small countries with some unexplainable exceptions, for example, the Vatican. There is, however, a rule that might be useful. De is used in front of all of the places that start with Saint or Sainte. For example, San Marino, Saint-Marin. So now you can answer my question. D'où viens-tu? Don't forget that whenever you are talking about countries or cities, you will need to capitalize them. And so that's it for today. We are slowly coming towards the end of our introduction series, and I will see you next week to talk about our family and pets. Don't hesitate to comment any feedback, but also anything about your origin and nationality. Merci et à bientôt!